While many people associate narcissism with anyone who regularly talks about themselves, narcissism goes beyond situational instances of dominating attention. Like, say, your friend who monopolizes dinner conversation to talk about their romantic relationship or awful boss or workout goal. These may be narcissistic tendencies, but both narcissism and clinically narcissistic personality disorder are characterized by a constant inflated sense of self-importance, something that can show up differently in different types of narcissists. All people with narcissistic personality disorder have narcissistic traits, but that does not mean that everyone with NPD behaves in the same way. To be clear, psychologists differentiate between narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, with the former showing up in varying degrees and frequencies in a person who likely can understand some of the consequences of their self-absorbed actions, and latter showing up consistently and severely in a person who cannot recognize or take accountability for the harm they are leaving in their wake. While there is only one clinical diagnosis for narcissistic personality disorder, there are various shades of narcissism, all of which can be super problematic to encounter in a relationship. Hey there, আমি একজন ভারতীয় বাঙালি লার্নার। রিসেন্টলি নার্সিসিজম অ্যান্ড ইটস ইম্প্যাক্ট নিয়ে একটি চর্চা করছি। আজকের এপিসোড 6 ডিফারেন্ট টাইপস অফ নার্সিসিস্ট। There are two main types of narcissism, grandiose and vulnerable. Although both types share some traits, they also result in fairly distinct behaviors. In addition to these types of NPD, there are other subtypes of narcissism. It can be helpful to think of NPD as a spectrum that includes shared behaviors as well as some notable differences. Grandiose, also known as agentic and overt narcissism. Narcissism is often seen in a negative light, but grandiose narcissistic personalities are typically charming and well-liked. People with grandiose narcissism tend to have a high sense of self-esteem, which can cause them to overestimate their capabilities. Grandiose narcissism can make people spread flattering rumors about themselves while trying to shut down any information that contradicts their illusions of greatness. Experts believe that there are two categories of grandiose narcissism, adaptive and maladaptive. Adaptive narcissism causes people to build up their self confidence in order to protect themselves and often drawn to careers that offer positions and leadership. They crave authority and prestige. Maladaptive narcissism means someone will have a naturally high self-esteem and believe that they are entitled to take advantage of other people. This causes them to try to control or manipulate those around them. They may become angry or aggressive when someone disagrees with them or tries to set boundaries. When most people talk about narcissism, they usually refer to the types of narcissism under the maladaptive umbrella. Vulnerable, also known as closet or covert narcissism. It's commonly assumed that narcissism causes people to want to be the center of attention, but vulnerable narcissism typically results in behaviors that are introverted and withdrawn. Some common traits of someone with covert narcissism include expression of low self-esteem, higher likelihood of experiencing anxiety, depression, paranoia, and shame, insecurity of low confidence, avoidance, and tendency to feel or play victim. While someone with covert narcissism will still be very self-focused, this is likely to conflict with a deep fear of sense of not being enough. Vulnerable NPD types often have elaborate fantasies of becoming successful. They believe that they deserve positive feedback from others, but usually won't take steps to earn that praise. The lack of recognition can lead to emotional outbursts which may cause them to feel intense levels of shame. Research shows that vulnerable narcissism means someone is more likely to experience negative emotions, and they also may perceive compliments as insults. It's also linked to high level of neuroticism. They are often envious of people around them and tend to blame others for their lack of success. Studies shows that grandiose and vulnerable narcissism are not always mutually exclusive of one another. In other words, someone with covert narcissism might go through a period where they show more signs of covert narcissism. For example, antagonistic narcissism. According to some research, antagonistic narcissism is a subtype of covert narcissism. A low level of trust in others creates a tendency to see the people around them as rivals. It's common for people with antagonistic NPD to argue with others and treat most social interaction as competition. Arrogance and tendency to take advantage of others are other features that can be associated with antagonistic NPD. B. Communal narcissism. A common trait between many types of narcissistic personality disorder is a gap between the way one views themselves and one behaves. Communal narcissism, usually seen as the opposite of antagonistic narcissism, people with communal NPD perceive themselves as highly generous and altruistic but behave in the opposite way. Research suggests there is a gap between these beliefs and the person's behavior. People with communal narcissism might become easily morally outraged, describe themselves as empathetic and generous, or react strongly to things they see as unfair. The key difference from genuine concern for the well-being of others is that for people with communal narcissism, social power and self-importance are playing major roles. See, malignant narcissism. Narcissism can exist at different levels of severity, and malignant narcissism is a more severe form. It can also interfere with a person's quality of life. They are often paranoid and may obsess over perceived threats. Someone with malignant narcissism may have many common traits of narcissism, like a strong need for praise and to be elevated above others. It's common for them to display vindictive or even sadistic behavior and show high levels of aggression when interacting with others. Seductive. People with seductive NPD understand the power of flattery. This kind of narcissist who relies most having on love bombing to get the attention that they so desperately crave from others. The seducer will make you feel great above yourself just to win you over as a sexual or love conquest.